Hi, I'm Dan. Thanks for checking in on Dimgaard, see what's going on this week. Special thanks to all the backers and patrons on Patreon and Kickstarter. I'll add links to those in the notes below. So what's going on this week? Ready for Winter Fantasy. That's a couple of weeks. If you're there, I hope you stop by and say hi. Give me your thoughts. Maybe play a session. That'd be great. So what's in development, there are a couple of things. I'd mentioned a while back that we were going to take one of the adventures and compile the chapters into a single larger title with a hard copy option. And to facilitate that, I published a poll last week where I included the 321 chapter adventures, Drow Conspiracy, Face Secrets, and the one ending this month, Tyranny in Purple. And then, almost as an afterthought, I included a couple of multi-chapter story arcs from the longitudinal, the 86 episode Dimgaard campaign. Right? I included the Red Blades War, which was an 8-chapter or an 8-session story arc for second and third level characters, and the Wormling Saga, which is a favorite of mine, but terrible in the polling. I don't know what that means. Which was 4 episodes for fourth level PCs, and I was surprised when I checked in after a week to see the results, and noted that the Red Blades War is neck and neck with the Drow Conspiracy. Those are by far the two big front runners, right? It's going to be one of those two, it seems like, for sure. Assuming that we base it purely on polling, which we may not base it purely on. But in the poll, those are the two leaders by far. And that's the reason. One of the reasons we do the polls, right, is we want to be surprised. We want to align our expectations with what the community is telling us. So when I began to think about it, I was like, well, yeah, the Red Blades War does have certain elements that make sense. So first of all, it's second and third level characters. It's all 8 chapters is in that PC range, and that is a preference for a lot of groups. Right, a lot of groups really like that. Second level, you get some. You're not as fragile as first level, but things are real challenging and meaty. And then the Red Blades War really is a good story. It was kind of the story that really really built Dimgaard's reputation for story building in 5th edition. When I published those. It was still at a time when there weren't a lot of people publishing 5th edition, and the story is really strong, has a lot of really good conflicts. You end up kind of rooting for the orcs at points, right? Because the orcs are kind of forward-thinking. They are somewhat tolerant of their vassal states. They allow them to maintain their own religion, maintain their own nobility, as long as they pay their tributes promptly. So it had some complex political dynamics that were not yet in. Like if you look at Horde of the Dragon Queen, it's just, yeah, let's go kill those dragons, right? There's not a lot of subtlety there. Which was what was up against at that time, right? So that really established is like, oh wow, yeah, Dimgaard has got some really good stuff going on compared to what else is out there. So I can see how people would want to revisit that and get that updated, and I think there's a nostalgia element there. At 8 chapters, it would be much cheaper as a price point than a 21 chapter. And probably equally important, at 8 chapters, you're looking at, at most a couple of months. Time commitment for a group, and that's if they're doing a weekly 1 chapter per session, would be less if they were doing more or were very efficient in their play. Whereas the 21 chapter adventures, you're looking at 6 or 7 months, right? Because many of those chapters are not designed to be played in one session. So I understand why people would vote for, particularly those who have some in-depth knowledge of Dimgaard would vote for the Red Blades War. And if I had to make the decision today, I would actually, if I had to make the decision 2 weeks ago before seeing the poll results, I would have gone with Drow Conspiracy. But today, after looking at the poll results and considering it in light of the poll results, I would go with Red Blades War. Now, that may change, and we got a little bit of time before we have to make the decision and go into development. So it may change again, but that's where that's leaning at. Another thing that has come up that that will be a big change is we are definitely going to expand into Pathfinder in 2018. So the first thing we will do is rather than continuing the CR0 to 20 sit line, which has been a monthly supplement for over a year now, we think we've got enough of that out there that we don't need to produce any new content in that area. So rather than continue with that, we would begin with a monthly supplement that would be a Pathfinder adventure as opposed to a D&D 5th edition supplement. And then if that does well, if there's a good reaction to that, then maybe when Encounter with Gold ends, the next 21 episodes would be a Pathfinder-based 21 episode adventure. The reason we're doing this, there are a couple of reasons. Well, there are many reasons. Right, so every now and then, a couple of times a year at least, I reach out to people who were consistent backers of Dimgaard who have stopped, and I've asked for their feedback. And by far, the most common answer is well, I've got too much Dimgaard material already. I can play Dimgaard every week for years, and I just don't have a need to buy anymore. If I get caught up, I'll buy some. I'll participate again, but I don't need any more right now. But the second most one is like, well, my group has decided to go back to Pathfinder. I see, and then even within our playtests, this has been an occurrence. We've had people who were playtesting D&D 5th edition who've notified me. It's like, I'll finish out this series, but my group's decided to go back to Pathfinder. I haven't dug real deep into why that is, but I will tell you that Pathfinder is a more mature rule set. A lot of the things that cause confusion in 5th edition have been addressed in Pathfinder. Now, particularly for a lot of new players, 5th edition is preferable in this because it's like baked into 5th edition that the DM just has a lot of room, that they're not constrained by the rules, because there's just a lot of things that, like, how far can I see? Well, that's up to the DM, right? At what point do we begin the encounter, right? At what distance do we begin the encounter? That's up to the DM. Just lots and lots of things in 5th edition that are just up to the DM, that when you look at Pathfinder, it's like, well, when they make this level of perception, that's when the encounter begins, right? Or your perception skill tells you how far you can see specifically. All right, so groups who favor that much more granular, much more determined set of rules are going back to Pathfinder. They don't like to leave so much up to DM fiat, and that's just a decision. I'm not advocating one way or another. I am just observing the circumstances on the ground. And then I've got to react to that. So we're definitely going to move into Pathfinder to address because that solves actually two of those issues. So if we are expanding into Pathfinder, and those people who prefer Pathfinder now have a Dimgaard option, which is great. That's one of the principles of Dimgaard, is that we want it to be a positive gaming experience for as many people, as many D&D players, and Pathfinder is D&D, right? Make no doubt about it. So as many people playing D&D, we want Dimgaard to be an option for them. So, but also the second one, right? We now have enough Dimgaard content for 5th edition that you can jump into Dimgaard. If you're coming into Dimgaard new, you're going to have plenty of material to play for a long, long time. And we can shift some of that over to Pathfinder and develop the same circumstance there. So we're definitely moving into Pathfinder. The exact approach we're going to take is unclear, except that probably beginning in March, maybe April, you'll see a Pathfinder adventure as a supplement that will replace the CR020 options that we're currently offering. So that's what's going on in Denver. Oh, and then on the website, man, I'm so far behind on that. That is totally on me, right? So that's I don't have any help with that. I hope to have all the current Dimgaard content up there, and with purchase options available for the previous content by the end of February. That's my goal. That's what I'm looking at. Right. So as always, if you have questions, email them to me or post them a comment in the Kickstarter or on Patreon, and I'll find them. Thanks for checking in.